Welcome, BBCers, to episode number 264 of the Broken by Concept podcast, the number one League of Legends solo queue educational and motivational podcast. Curtis, Charlie, this past weekend, we just got off the back of a combined 54 hours of coaching. We each did 18 hours each, whatever 18 times by 3 is. Bootcamp, blood, sweat, and tears. What's a bootcamp, guys? What for people that don't know? We purely ran it internally for our WTL members, the last 3 boot camps. We'll be talking a bit more about our plans for future boot camps, but we're going to be exploring today our learnings from the boot camp. So basically, it is a weekend. We run it across a Saturday and Sunday. There is 4 different separate blocks per day. We have 8 blocks total, 3 hours each block. And you basically get assigned a coach to work with you as you play live. You're either going to be muted, or we sometimes do live coaching. We spice it in as well if we feel the need to do that. So we had a lot of fun. It was a blast. The members absolutely loved it. Where we're going to start here,
I think the key with the bootcamp is there's just a lot of games. So
we have a lot of games.
So many games were played. It's not just us. There were how many other coaches were working the event? Like 20, 25 coaches
20
or something
coaches,
that were working with us during the bootcamp who work in our academies. So between us, we would have watched like 200 or so games of League of Legends. We have a really big sample size of data, and that's why we wanted to have this episode today to kind of discuss what wins games of League of Legends. Let's get boots on the ground, back to the Summoner's Rift. We have a lot of data to share with you because the beauty of these bootcamps is it cuts the fat, as Nathan was saying, and we can really get to the bottom of like what an average solo queue game looks like.
There's no nitpick VOD bringing to like a review session for a coaching session or whatever. In our academies, it's just raw. We get to see the reality of your gameplay. That's why we love it.
Exposed.
There's no hiding there at all. And as you said, is that we've just seen such a large amount of games in such a short period of time.
Yeah.
It almost feels like you're the one queuing up for the 3 block, right? Because you're watching each and every one of their games.
You're going to be locked in.
It feels as though you're the one playing the block. And so there's no hiding. You see how they interact in champ select. You see, the little small things. How are they pinging? You see it all, right? Yeah. Everything is exposed. So, I do want to, kind of start this episode with, a lot of us, when we do coaching daily in the academies, we don't tell them what VOD to pick. They're bringing VODs, right? We don't have a say. And so this time...
We have guidelines.
We have rough guidelines, right? We give them, heads up roughly what sort of VOD to pick. But now there's no nitpicking anymore, right? And the other thing as well is when we do our academy reviews, we are maybe not skipping over things, but we do try to maybe be quite selective with our attention, right? We can't sit there and go over every single little minute or every little second of the review. We're trying to really get the big learnings. But in the bootcamp, we see, for the most part, every single little minute. We're watching those games played live. And so you see all the transition periods, all the deployments, all the lull state usage, all the trades, all the little things. Okay, and it does highlight a few things. So what we're going to do today is we're going to share each of our observations, what we deem to be some interesting observations as why people are stuck at these particular ranks. So this is going to be a very practical episode, we hope, for the viewers. So I want to start with, some of the observations from the mid lane portion, and we'll kind of go through role by role. So the first one here, I viewed there to be a significant lack of flow, a lack of speed. And so the way a lot of these games played out with the people I worked with, basically at all ELO brackets, was that it felt like there were these sequences of play that are all kind of stitched together. Right? There was like one play here where they just win this team fight, and then there's like this giant pause, and then there's like a botched sequence, and then there's like another play that happens. It almost feels like you've got this like, it feels like someone's done some home sewing, and they've sewed together. They've stapled all these little separate plays together. And so what you get is you can kind of see what it resembles. It resembles the game, like a game of League of Legends. But in reality, it's this botched kind of stitching or stapling together of all of these separate plays.
I think
there's no flow.
You used the analogy before, Curtis, of a movie. It's like you're watching the movie in terms of start-stop versus just watching it all the way through. I think
the metaphor I used was, you're watching a movie, but imagine like the screen goes black for like 30 seconds or a minute, and then you come back and you have to try and figure out what's actually happened. And so, I feel as though when I watch games played like this, it makes sense why they feel so uncomfortable. I can understand why they feel so stressed, because when you're not properly utilizing those transition periods and you don't know how the key moments flow in together, the game is constantly this tug of war where you feel in control and then you feel out of control, and then something feels good and then it feels shit. It's this constant kind of back and forth. It's a very stressful experience.
That's so strange. This was literally my number one point, by the way. We haven't talked about what each of our points were. That was my number one thing, was speed of decision making and transition periods. And the thing that I worked with a master player, Rasmus, for a couple of the games, and we identified that the speed of decision making was a big problem for him. And specifically what was happening is he wasn't making the next decision until the previous play had completed completely.
Yeah.
Or not even started thinking about that decision.
But when I was live coaching him, or I was live coaching others, I would be in his ear, like telling him like what's next, like as he's killing the last guy in the team fight, or before the wave has finished, because that's how you need to. That's the speed of decision making that's required.
But you know why I think it is? Why it's not intuitive to people is because they're not thinking about time as future opportunities.
Yeah.
Because when you play League, beautiful League of Legends, every second is like an opportunity to get to a place faster to create another opportunity.
Yep.
So if you see your team like maybe doing Dragon and you're not needed, I'm thinking, fuck yeah, let's go back to mid wave, get that wave. I can reset. I can already get back on the map and make another play in the future. I'm thinking about the next play because
you're denying an opponent a play by doing the same thing. Yeah.
Exactly right. So it almost feels like, exactly that. The plays are slow, and so now what happens? You make a play, but then you're immediately putting yourself on the back foot. So then you'll have to immediately react to whatever it is the enemy have to do. So you're going one step forwards and then one step back, and then one step forward, then one step back. So
that's why the games go for 40 minutes.
That's why they go for so long, and that's why translation of leads also gets completely plateaued out, because you're not progressing. There's no momentum.
Because all it takes is one missed reset, getting your base cancelled, overstaying for an item after a fight, not pushing a wave, pushing an extra wave, all these little tempo things. I think that was a big finding for me. Sorry, I'm kind of jumping all over the place.
Totally.
But tempo was like a big one, especially for some of my more high rank clients. Yeah.
It's interesting because there was one of the members, he was on his third game of the block, and he had a pretty rough first two blocks, and we were talking a little about this morning, Nathan, and we decided to do a combination of live coaching, but then also, reviewing after. We don't replace the reviews with live coaching, we kind of do both, right?
Yep.
And so I did this very kind of hands-off approach with live coaching. I didn't really talk about his fighting at all. I just let him play the lane for the most part, give him small little bits of advice. I didn't want to impede his mental stack. But then there was a sequence where his team was ahead. They were all ahead, everyone was doing well, and the top laner was moving down to the dragon. And all I said very simply, I'm like, do you need to go to that dragon? He's like, oh, yeah, I guess I don't. I'll go top. And so we went top instead. And then because he wasn't needed at that fight, they were already going to win that fight. So his team won the fight at the dragon. They did the dragon. He's already on top wave, shoved it all the way out. I said, oh, you're sitting on a lot of gold. He's like, oh yeah, shit, I should probably recall. So then he recalls, gets back, tempo, deploys through mid. And then I say one more thing, like another thing, like, oh, where's your jungler? And he said, oh yeah, my jungler's not here. And so we back. So it was 3 or 4 like just small decisions.
Game changing.
Changed the entire flow of the game. And after that, he said, wow. I said, what did you learn from this? He said, yeah, I just realized that I'm not really thinking about what to do next. And it all clicked for him. It was like that, just a few handful of decisions. And he ended up going like 14-2.
And
he had the best game ever.
Yeah. The interesting thing about that is that player knows those things. Just isn't executing it or thinking about it. That's the shock, that because people think that they come to Shokin coaching and they're thinking about what's the secret thing that I'm missing. It's knowledge, you're just not executing it. And especially the high like Emerald Plus have a massive problem with this.
And this is why I always say, like the philosophy of our coaching, I always say every problem in League comes down to 3 things. You either have a problem with your gathering information, or processing of information, or execution. That's your problem is in one of those 3. Most people don't struggle with processing or execution. Majority of the time, most people struggle with gathering information. And that's where, when you have someone helping you and giving you perspective on what it's like to have that additional bit of mental stack, to gather that little bit more of information at the right time, it makes them realize, wow, I'm actually not that bad at the game. I actually am pretty good. I actually do know a lot about the game, It's a huge confidence booster.
Yeah, I don't know how you guys experienced for live coaching, but I had 3 clear memories of students having like perfect games during live coaching once they're freed up to actually play their character. Because most people are pretty damn good at playing their character, especially in our programs, because we preach champ mastery so much. They just, it's the mental stack.
Okay, so I'm going to contradict that last statement a little bit here. My second point here was ability usage. Even the people with Champion Mastery really had a lot to learn with ability usage. I know, Nathan, you're a big advocate of this. Most people had one core ability that they were fundamentally massively underutilizing to a crazy degree.
Wow.
And I believe I was reflecting on this. How is this possible? Why is it that they are so complacent with this one ability? And the conclusion that I've come to is that they've obviously got results with Champion Mastery. But then because they've got results with Champion Mastery, they feel they've taken the foot off the gas. They feel like they've solved it. They've cracked the code. They've already developed Champion Mastery. It mustn't be my Champion Mastery anymore. It must be concepts I'm missing about the game. They get sloppy on their ability usage. I saw some atrocious ability usage.
What sort of abilities are we talking?
Again, Echo W, just forgetting to use it. Or Victor W, just not using it in a team fight. Like these are just like, tried and true abilities that you just, or even Talia, just rushing Talia ease.
I saw some shocking Sivir spell shields in my bootcamp actually come to memory. Yeah.
But it's just one. A lot of times, it's just the one ability that's missing in their kit, and a lot of them, it's a wake up call. It's like, wow, there actually is a lot of room to grow in your levels of fighting and ability usage. Any other comments on that one, or no?
I was going to say what I noticed, and I didn't expect this from the bootcamp with ability usage. Technically, some of the spells flash. People really don't think about using flash aggressively, I noticed. I had a Mumu player and a Viego player. Flash is important for a Mumu, and W flash is really important as well for Viego.
Yep.
And people, I think they love that idea of having the oh shit button. And it's really, because it's a bit of a risk in a way, but you've got to like build that up, that confidence up. I need you to fail with your flash, but because you have to unlock that part of your gameplay, because there's massive missed opportunities with, especially on a champ like Viego. If you do, I had a couple of scenarios. I think I worked with like 3 Viego players across the boot camp. Just massive missed opportunities to literally win the fight. Just a W flash, really simple W flash that will be very high percentage of hit. And the same with a Mumu player, Mason, R flash as well. So that's an ability usage thing that I actually didn't expect, especially me as the specific ability usage.
Yeah.
Let's about your flash.
There's a whole Mumu R flash section in the guide.
There is, yeah.
So it's funny you mention actually summoner spell usage. Now that you mention it, TP usage was absolutely horrendous at all.
I mean, I see that in my solo queue games.
Should people even be running TP?
It's so important.
People use it to get back to lane, and then for the rest of the game, it's
they forget.
It's like
I was thinking more so mid-game teleport.
Mid-game TP.
Yeah, that's what I mean. No one knows that he's in mid-game.
They know how. No, so this is a hot tip to the BBCs here. This straight up. If you are thinking about using your TP in the late stage of the lane back to lane, you better have a goddamn good reason to use it. Because TP, for example, specifically it's like a tool of adaptability. It's like a one size fits all solution to many, many problems. You can cheat your tempo with it. You can get back on the map, spend your gold. You can attend a random skirmish in a side lane. You can fix a lane assignment. You can do an immense amount of things with it. The limits to your TP usage is unbounded, right? But the reality is that people are not even thinking about it. They're just pissing it out. I'm just going to TP back. There's no one's on the map. No one's ready to pressure. We have no
pressure
ultimate.
for pressure's sake.
It's just pressure for pressure's sake, and it's honestly making people's mid game significantly harder. Because what I said in the bootcamp, I said, well, we're getting to mid-game now. No one has TP, and there's going to be a fight on top side. What are you going to do about it, right? We're now in a really complex scenario for no reason. If you just held your TP, we can just waddle to the side lane. We can just take all the time in the world, right? Because we can be at that area. So if you're playing a solo lane, just be intentional with your TP usage post 12 minutes. Be very thoughtful.
Something I noticed you do in solo queue, because I've been playing against you recently, Curtis, and I see a lot of good mid laners do this, is they'll hold their TP, they'll arrive at a fight, and then after the fight, they'll immediately TP to the opposite side, push the wave out, completely deny the enemy team a window to play the game, insta-base, and
they go back to that same side of the map.
Then back to the same side of the map. There's no counterplay.
No counterplay.
And I see you do this on TF. It's so annoying. I can just see the map like bleeding against me when it's happening.
It just take over the whole game. Yeah. It's one of those abilities. TP is one of those abilities that scales with game understanding. The better you are at the game, the more ways you can use it. Another one here. Just not saying no. People really, really struggle to give things. Giving a dragon, giving a tower, giving anything, literally giving a wave, giving just the sheer amount of the difficulty, I just see it. I can feel it, obviously, in the bootcamp. You just feel how painful it looks to them. This is it's an out of tier 1 at like 18, 19 minutes. It doesn't mean anything. Just leave it. It was going to die the next wave anyway. And then they just go to the ends of the earth to go to this bad recall or TP in certain scenarios, and it just ruins the flow of the mid game. So just giving things. Did you guys experience that in any way, shape, or form?
Oh, absolutely. That's where live coaching kicked in the most for me, or things clicked. So what I like to do was 2 games of the block, mute, focus. We'll review after the last game, live coaching. I did one with Logan, his Vi, and the game, I think we gave the grubs, we gave 2 dragons, ended the game in 23 minutes, 19-0. And that unlocks something for people. It's because junglers are even the worst for this, because junglers lose their minds. If they're losing an objective, then, it's that's my job. That's my only job. If I'm doing that, then the enemy jungler's out jungling me. But just giving them another way of you can win the game through experience and gold, trading on the other side of the map. It gives them some sort of confidence level. It's I can just give that and I can win this game very comfortably and very convincingly. Because what's the alternative? I said all the time. You just contest it and you die, or it's just coin flip, instead of the guaranteed high percentage play. So,
I saw many of Charlie's Dolphins and SeaWorld, Dolphin
Sea
Cove.
World.
Many of those. It was a very common occurrence.
I suppose with the Dantes episode again, just those dragons, you have to contest dragons.
so
Well, guys, one team gets the dragon, one team doesn't get the dragon. You are 50% of the time going to be on the non-getting the dragon team, I think cross-mapping goes hand in hand with conceding objectives, though, because if you're playing slow and you're not having good
miss the
speed,
opportunity, yeah,
because that's what happens. I find it's for 80 carries at least. It's less so the lack of willingness to contest it, because we don't really care that much. It's more like
the speed.
I'm so slow to cross map that I end up looking at the dragon anyway. So I'm here, may as well just find it.
I had a Vi player. Not even queuing to move to places faster. Use your queue. Let's get there. Urgency. There's just no urgency that I was seeing.
Lack of urgency
in the gameplay.
Yeah, it's again that value of seconds. I think I've been working on this in my own solo queue games, just understanding that seconds matter. It's a game of inches, right? Everything small little micro getting on the map faster.
I had a slogan off that, by the way. I kept saying in bootcamp was, you don't need to be a hero, right? You don't need to save the day. You don't need to come in and kill everyone. And, that's just not the way you need to go about the rifts. You're just doing your job. You've got to keep doing your job.
I call it the I'm helping mindset. It's you're there. It's I'm helping. I'm I'm around my team. So if my team dies and I'm still around, guys, I contributed. Yeah. Nocturne players are the biggest contribute of that, because they're so R-reliant Nocturne, and they like to have the I'm helping mindset where they just give they ult in, or they don't have ult, and they're just clicking around, just throwing they may have Nocturne is the most useless champ in the game.
Just fishing for Qs.
Yeah, poking people with Qs and stuff. Just go push a wave, go do something else, let your team rot. You're not going to help it in this situation.
Now, the last major one here, and this I would say is probably a video within itself that I probably will have to make, and it's probably one of the most missed and overlooked concepts and problems as a mid lane in the game, is giving up space in the lane or giving up priority when the enemy uses abilities on the wave. Just not posturing aggressively enough, okay?
Yeah.
So an example would be, let's say we're playing Syndra into Twisted Fate. And Twisted Fate uses the Q and gold card on the wave in front of your face.
Yep.
And we're stepping back. We're not posturing up to the side. We're not pushing them off the wave. We're not bullying them. We're not pressuring them. We're just giving free priority and giving free space.
Yeah.
And what happens is that the consequences of that is that they have first move, you're now reacting, you're late or you're behind in tempo, they get first reset, and it causes a whole chain series of events where you're just on the back foot. And I'm like, well, this whole sequence, you're fed, you're strong, you have all the vision in the world. This guy should not be able to touch the wave, right? And just that lack of positioning and giving prior when the enemy's just not being attentive, when the enemy's using abilities, paying attention to cooldowns. Is this something you see in bot lane, Charles?
Oh, 100%, yeah, 100%. Trading around cooldowns is huge. If you watch your opponent use their ability on the wave, and then you just play like they still have it, that's what people do all the time, right? But it's because they don't understand the importance of one ability. It's the quote I say is, champions are cooldowns. If the enemy Kai'Sa doesn't have Q, if they just queued the wave and I'm playing Corki, it's my duty to Valk on the head and fight them because I don't have that spell anymore. Or at least take space in the lane, start to outpush them on the wave and push them out. I see it all the time. The biggest one I see in bot lane actually is when the enemy hook champion uses their hook and then the player keeps respecting the hook as if they never used it, where you should get up in their face and push them out. So 100%, yeah. I think it's actually more important in bot than mid from my perspective.
Yeah, and the reason I think it gets swept under the rug, Charles, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, is because it's something that you can get away with in the short term, or it's very subtle. If maybe something happens in the future where they have move, let's say in bot lane, the enemy gets first move into the river and your team die on dragon, you're not taking responsibility for that. It's like, I didn't die, I'm fine, I'm getting my wave. My team should have just respected. They should have listened to my pings or something.
Yeah.
Rather than, why am I losing priority? That's the real question. Why am I losing priority?
People are just so, I mean, from my experience, it's actually something I wrote down from the bootcamp, is people who play scaling champions are just way too comfortable just like farming and scaling, where there's so many missed opportunities to punish opponents for things.
Be
they
more
fuck up.
aggressive, yeah.
Even just getting pushed. Like I have a mindset at the moment, specifically with Jinx and Sivir players, which is pushing to scale. You push the wave constantly into your opponent, and that allows you to scale.
It buys time.
As opposed to keeping the wave on your side and just losing the map. So I think like these scaling champions have a lot of wave clear, and I think people really don't utilize that enough.
So that's all my points. So where do you want to head from now, guys?
So I'll do jungle now. So, I mean, a lot of that comes, I've already talked about some points there about, just the speed, comfortable saying no, giving especially Dragon's objectives was a big one. There's a very specific thing that popped up was knowing where the enemy bot lane has warded after your full clear. This was completely game-changing because we recommend full clear stop to bot most games to keep things really simple. And simply, you don't have to use F keys. You can literally see whether the support or the ADC goes and wards either the dot bush or the tri bush. It's really obvious if you're just paying attention to it. And you can easily do that in your clear. Even, silver players, gold players can do this. And then, because then you know how to navigate that bot situation so easily after your full clear. Because after your full clear, I always say after your full clear, part in the bot lane. Typically, the other jungler's also going to be pathing towards bot as well. But even if they're not, then you get the gank opportunity bot. And having that confidence to know where something's not warded allows you to execute that gank with so much more confidence. Because I really don't care about the first grab. The first grab is whatever. If you can always gank or counter gank, if you know that enemy jungler is pathing towards it, it's always better. So that was like completely game changing in terms of people's confidence in their early game of just knowing where specifically the ward is a bot. Outside of that, urgency, speed, tempo. I'd say a lot of the learnings are the big ones. I had someone, I can't remember who it was, say after the bootcamp saying, this bootcamp just realized how much I just, wasn't thinking about like what's next and how there's always something to do. They're shocked that there was always, I need to be thinking about something.
Yeah.
Because I think some people literally think that there's like points in the game where it's just like, oh, I'm just like warning back to lane, la-di-da-di-da. It's like there's nothing that's happening. There's always something to be thinking about. Even if you're using that time, I'm not saying like you're running around making plays all the time, but you're thinking about, okay, now I finished pushing this wave or I finished this camp or there's nothing to do here. Okay, I need to go back to my reference point. How do I win this game? What's my win condition? Yeah. What's the next objective here? There's always a question to be asking. And at the moment you don't know what the question is, then that's a period of the point of the game you need to be like reviewing, like, okay, why did I was not thinking about anything? Just have a hypothesis. I'm not expecting people to actually know, but that's how you improve. You think, okay, this is what I thought was next. This didn't pan out that way. Maybe I need to be thinking about something else.
Now, it's funny you mention that. I do think there's a fear of being wrong. I saw that in a lot of the games of the bootcamps where there was a lack of communication, not even because I think that they don't know what the right play is, but their fear of looking like an idiot. I think that's a big one. Their fear of, if I ping this wrong and I get blamed, then, it's on me. And I think that it scares a lot of people off. And I think there is a hesitance there based off that.
People don't want to be the one that makes the players to lose the game.
Yeah,
that's
exactly
the best
right.
way to learn.
It is the best way to learn, but it's easier said than done.
Yes, it is.
So we'll go to Chippy's. Actually sent me some of the points he got from the top laners section.
Chippy's is the head coach of the top lane academy currently.
So the first one here from Chippy said, people struggled to make a game plan in champ select relative to waves and trades. So he was saying how basically what this means is, loading into the game, just knowing your matchup and knowing the junglers. What do I roughly want to do with my early trades? What do I want to do roughly with my waves? And I think, that is something I have noticed. I've been doing some reviews of and observing some of the reviews from the Top Lane Academy. how many people don't know what they want to do with the waves in top lane? And that is so important, even in our experience with some of the champions of the top lane academy.
Yeah, Mordekaiser,
just to name a few, where you need to know exactly what you're doing. If you shove a wave where you shouldn't, it can completely ruin your early lane. And just having a rough hypothesis goes a long way. So that's quite surprising. Patience in team fights. Most fights, they would blow all of their cooldowns right away. Seeing every fight from a bunch of games made this more clear to see. So that's right up your alley, Charlie. People basically wasting cooldowns, blowing cooldowns.
Rushing fights is big. I think I noticed this a bit, so just to riff on that slightly, like 80 carry, the version of that is like, I must always be auto-attacking. I need to walk up, and the first person that gets engaged on, I'm going to walk up, I'm going to use my spells, I'm going to use my defensive spell on the first CC instead of trying to just wait it out, and I'm just going to hit, and then I'll just die afterwards.
I think you're very good at that, Charlie. I think you're really patient in fights. Like, you know when not to go in, and sometimes you're just going to back up, let them do their thing, and then I can go in and deal my damage. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I usually try and it's like flipping the switch.
Yeah.
Is how I teach in bot lane. Like, you need to know how to hang back, be very patient, and then once the spells are down, then you send it. It's like the actual inverse of how most people play fights.
But that's actually, and funnily enough, I think 80 carry is one of the roles that you have to learn that early on. But that is the case for all roles. There is not a single champion or role in the game that just sees the enemy and just uses their own target. Yeah, junglers are probably notoriously one of the worst. So just, there's an enemy, I'm going to go in and use all my abilities. But at some point, every single role needs to develop that patience and that ability to be, when am I going to go in? Maybe I should hold that ability, wait a little bit, wait for them to come to me.
Top lane is maybe an interesting case as well, because top lane they're typically like the strongest person in the game a lot of the time. And if you're like, I'm trying to think about like an Aatrox or like an Urgot E or whatever, like if a top laner uses their abilities early, they're completely useless because they're very immobile or they have like, big cooldowns or whatever. So, like the top laner that's like waiting for that moment, it's like way more scary. It's like think about like a Renekton who's like holding his double E or whatever it is.
Yep.
That's way scarier than the moment Renekton double E's or even R's, you just run away from it or whatever,
Even like useless. A tank, like even when like you see Orns that they're just holding their abilities, they're just walking up, creating space. They might throw their Q but not go in with their E. Yep. Like just small things like that. I think go a very long way.
To toot my own Renekton horn, I always love talking about how good at Renekton I am. I made a bonus resource for the Top Lane Academy, Nathan.
Yeah.
Holding Renekton W. That empowered W on Renekton. If you can play a fight and not use it on the first target and then wait for someone else to pop in and stun them, it's beautiful. So had needed to mention that.
That's all right, Charles. The Renekton Gragas
God.
The Renekton Gragas
Charles is begging to go back to top lane.
Always talk of top lane, holding spells, fixing the wave. Ooh.
Being the strongest champ in the game.
Yeah, Nathan said it's the strongest character in the game. I'm thinking like it's Camille just pushing side, rotating mid, killing everyone. Like
or Yorick or something.
Yeah.
The other one here from Chibi is saying inconsistency on combos that can be practiced in training tool. Gwen, E, WQ, Jace QE, etc. Interesting. I mean, I guess this is probably more common in a role like top. I guess there's probably more combos in top lane. I guess some mid lane champions are like this, probably more so top though.
I think it's top, yeah, because they're like fighting game champs. They have specific combos. I think it makes sense.
So yeah, I mean, that's good to know. And they were his main things. So again, I think a lot of these kind of ring true. Kind of similar to what you were mentioning before, Charles. And we also had some comments here before we get to your side from Andy, Coach Cupcake from the support part of the Bot Lane Academy. He said, not understanding what their mid laner wants, especially in mobile mages, and how to facilitate that throughout the whole game. Do you want to maybe echo on this one a little bit, Charles?
Oh, yeah. I think from my perspective, from an 80 carry, I often see my supports just run mid and just I'm helping on the mid wave, or showing on the mid wave, or not knowing when to like fix the wave on mid, or just generally, I think junglers are really bad at this too. Just knowing how to impact the mid lane role. No one knows what mid laners do.
Yeah, people. That's actually really interesting. There is definitely a learning there as well about you don't gank mid lane more so. You play around the priority and the pushes and their bases. That's how you use mid throughout most of the game, and that's what basically I think Cupcake's saying here. He said throughout the whole game. So it sounds like it might be the early roams. People are roaming into mid to do something with a Xerath that's completely fine or whatever it is. But also in terms of fights, like they're engaged. Like I think about like a Rel, like engaged in like the Syndra or whatever is just a little bit too far away and can't follow up. You like
because they don't run one forward. Mages want to go back
a lot of the time.
That's probably it. Actually, going forwards and making the mage run forward is really bad. And also like dragging scaling mages into chaotic early game skirmishes if you've got like an Anivia mid or like
Victor,
a Hui mid or
Victor's people ruin Victor's games all
or
the
like
time.
a Corky mid or something.
Yeah.
Dragging them into this shitty early game skirmish at like level 5. It's like, get me out.
I have like 100% win rate with Victor players because I know exactly what they want, and I'm so confident in the Victor to be able to carry mid game fights. I'm fully on the same page with that Victor. It's game winning, and again, I'm not even ganking that lane. I'm not getting guy any kills.
It's
just me not. Yeah, that's right. Like think about me as like a Rek'Sai. Like I've just sitting here, just never unburrowing, just like sitting on my, and if Viego's trying to kill my Victor, it's like you can't play the game.
Yeah, and I think jungle and support are the two roles that you need to really start to put yourself in their shoes, right?
Especially, I always say that's a massive learning for Emerald Plus. Like, the big part of climbing as a jungler, especially Diamond, High Diamond Master, is understanding what your carries want to do.
What's their identity.
And ADC and mid lane, yeah. But it's very interesting that Cupcakes is specifically mid lane and mobile mages. Yeah, I think that's very common.
Because mobile mages, they're so limited in how they can play fights, right? They've got this very strong kit. They're kind of like an AD carry in a way, right? Where they don't have much mobility. They can't follow up on crazy plays. But if you fight with them in the right way, they can pop the hell off and do a lot of damage. He also mentions here not assessing both comps properly, kind of similar to what Chippy was mentioning, and taking poor fights relating to your team. So I guess it's more of a cerebral thing, kind of understanding how the comps interact, understanding, I guess, your role, in the composition, which is kind of more of like a jungle, because jungle and support are kind of very kind of related, aren't they? Right, where as a jungler and as a support, you need to be thinking very cerebrally. What is my job this game? How do I facilitate my carries this game?
Especially in fights. Like I think about like a Nocturne R, right? It's like I need to be very clear throughout the whole game who my primary and my secondary target is. So you have two in mind. And you don't be too rigid on that. Sometimes there will be opportunities to kill the target number 4 or whatever. But if you don't think about that, then you're going to be overwhelmed mental stack in fights and it's going to explode.
So, by the way, Nathan, on this topic of not assessing team compositions and understanding your role comparatively to specific carries, what's the biggest piece of advice you give junglers, I guess, to learn that stuff? Is it more like, oh, now we know how, like, say they mess up a game with an Orianna, it's like it's more of a one and done. Oh, now we know how to play around Orianna. Or do you have a more broad kind of way of kind of tackling that?
Yeah, you have to have a same thing with the what I was talking about with have a hypothesis in the decision making in terms of that black screen you talk about in the movie, that 30 seconds, you need to be thinking about something. Same thing. This is what I identified, how this person might want to play with fights. It didn't happen this way, so I need to recalibrate why that happened. You have to just have a crack. That's the best way. And it's always bringing it back to champion strengths and weaknesses. And a lot of people, a lot of the archetypes of the champions are quite easy. It's like an immobile mage. Okay. High damage, lots of AoE, but very immobile. And it's quite obvious a lot of the archetypes.
Yeah, it's pretty commonsensical.
It's like an Ahri without R or like an assassin without a Z without R. Okay. They don't have R in this moment here. Well, that means we're way weaker in the situation, so I need to adapt accordingly.
Yeah, in a way, it's almost as long as you ask that question, a lot of the time the answer is relatively straightforward. And like you said, it doesn't have to be perfect. It does not have to be perfect.
So you think the main problem is most people just aren't hypothesizing at all?
Nope, that's right. Exactly
there we
right.
Go. So that's how you fix it. Use hypothesize. Have a crack, isn't it?
It's like science experiment. Like in... Yeah, like how we had to write down that it's like you have like the hypothesis at the beginning, and then you have like the method, and then you have the conclusion. Remember in science class, right?
Yeah. The inference, I think, was in there somewhere.
I never.
Yeah, I don't remember that.
Oh, really?
That's a scary word.
There was an inference.
Charlie must have gone to a more advanced school than us. And
there was also a discussion as well.
Yeah. Yes, I remember discussion. Yeah.
So think of it as like a science report in high school. That's what I like to think about.
I say that as well. I found myself saying that in the bootcamp, but also like whenever I review, I say, "Oh, something's weird here. Let's investigate. Let's launch an investigation into why are you half HP?
You know what I was thinking about, Charles? Yeah. You made me a YouTube thumbnail ages ago, and I'm like this scientist in a lab with like a microscope.
I remember
that one.
Yeah, I do. There was like those. What do they call it? Jefferson balls or whatever. Like the 4 balls that are like bouncing on side of each other. I remember that thumbnail. That was an old one. That's 2 years old.
Yeah, it's a classic.
Great.
And then lastly, he said, not using lull states to communicate what we want for the next sequence. And that's the same thing. People are scared to communicate in lull states. Whether they're scared, some are scared, probably some are overwhelmed mental stack. Some people just haven't developed that habit. Is a wide variety of reasons, but it does seem to be a pretty kind of...
We should do a whole episode on comms at some point, like in-game comm, because some people just think they comm, but they don't as well.
Yep.
I think that's
Show what good comms with pings look like.
Yeah. Pings and body language. Pings and body language. That's the two forms.
We're not talking about typing essays. We're talking about
No. Pings and body language, yes.
And Charles?
Yeah, okay. Well, a lot of the stuff we've spoken about does have overlap with AD, but I have a couple of big ones. To be honest, this one's a kind of a boring topic, but just the concept of a blunder. I saw this all the time. Like, people are having these great games. The flow was good. Like, these are Emerald players who are like quite competent on their picks. They're playing their one tricks. They're in the game. Lane's going well. And then they'll just make one, like, silly, quote unquote, mistake where it's like their support was in base and they walk up and they take a trade. They're half HP. And then during that window, they can't contest the wave. The enemy jungle does dragon. The mid laner, that you give the enemy support a roam window, the game explodes.
Yep.
And it's just one little thing. So just that whole mindset of like, if you're watching this and you're saying, oh, I'm playing quite well, but like I can't put it together, just try and find the one thing. Because oftentimes there is just this one little error, one poor wave contest, one poor trade. And the root cause of this for AD carry is often losing HP. It's actually something I talk about in reviews all the time. Just the concept of like being high HP. It's not like mid lane, right? Mid lane is a very heavy trading role. I see when I pan my camera mid, everyone's hitting each other. In bot lane, especially as an AD carry, you should be full HP because most AD carry champions thrive in extended trades and all-ins. So to all-in, you must be high HP. There's some short tradey champions down there, but for the most part, that's true. So yeah, just people getting chunked, I guess, is my most obvious learning from the thing.
And trying to get to the root cause of why they're getting chunked in that particular...
Exactly. Viewing that as like a clue and then finding, why did that happen? And then usually it's just a weird blunder. And it's kind of like what you were saying earlier, Nathan. These people aren't missing big concepts. It's a pure execution blunder. They just didn't value the importance of something. It's a bit of threat assessment maybe thrown in there as well.
Love it.
So that's pretty simple. Another one, very simple concept that a lot of people just miss, and this is all ranks, structuring the mid-game around neutral objectives. The amount of people I saw play when I wasn't live coaching where they just saw a dragon come and go and they didn't know it was there. Caught them off guard. Like, oh shit, the dragon's up now. Now what am I doing? I'm caught on the mid-wave or I'm like running in late. Or just the concept of like knowing an objective is coming up and then being at that objective, controlling the area before it spawns.
I've actually got a hypothesis about this, Charles.
Yeah, let's
so
hear it.
I've really thought about this. So when we all know when you start to get to around definitely platinum onwards, it's very clear that in League of Legends, the mid-game revolves entirely around neutral objectives. That is the game, right?
Yes.
If you think about the way the game is designed, if there were no neutral objectives, everyone would just sit under tower and the game would stall out like it did back in like season 1 and 2, where the games were for 70, 80 minutes. Because neutral objectives weren't that valuable, right? But so what Riot did very intelligently is they've made neutral objectives very important, right? You don't want to give a Hextech Soul. You don't want to give an Adicon. You don't want to give a Baron or an Elder, right?
Nope.
Now, therefore, the way the game is designed is that neutral objectives are magnets. They draw people out. The game revolves around them. So your job moving into mid-game, at minimum, is to be aware of what is the next neutral objective and what are you going to do about it.
Correct.
Okay?
And how can I use it to my advantage?
Contest or concede.
Yep.
You have to. It's not. There's no gray area.
There's no gray area.
You contest that thing because you want to fight the enemy team, or you concede it because you don't want to fight the enemy team.
Or sometimes I want to fight it, but my team's not there, and that's okay. But at least I'm aware that it's up, and I know that's where roughly I want to be. Yep. I don't want to be stuck on the other side of the map when it's coming up, right? Mm-hmm. So it doesn't mean that you're going to guarantee get it just because you want it, but at least you're thinking about it, right? But the reason I think this is the case is because when you actually watch bronze games, iron games, even silver games, there will be massive sequences where no one takes a dragon, or no one takes a Rift Herald, or no one takes an Adicon. And so what happens is that the view of the game of the player becomes molded by these events where they actually forget that the game does revolve around neutral objectives. They just think that the game actually what they think it revolves around is just random fights.
Kills.
Random fights and kills.
Yep.
But the
people getting caught.
And people getting caught. That's what they think the game is. That's why they're not really viewing the game through neutrals. So that's why calling for neutrals and thinking about neutrals is a foreign concept when you climb through the ranks. It's actually not naturally embedded in the game.
You don't win games that way.
That's not the way you win in
It should
bronze.
be in the tutorial. That's where we're kind of like Riot and everyone is like failing to educate that lower player base. Or maybe it's just meant to be this way. Maybe it's always
meant
to
to
be
like overload. Maybe they can't even think about it.
I think it is meant to be that way.
You think it's normal for like up until probably low gold that Dragons are just
Don't
not
exist.
taken as much.
Yeah, I think that people should be fighting a lot. You should learn
That's
how
a good point, actually. But
you need to learn how to
that's
fight.
what the dragons are for, though, for fighting.
Yeah, but you don't need those.
I think fighting is fun anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
But
You don't
those
need
fights
those,
happen.
true.
Anyway,
Oh.
we need objectives in...
I can't start a fight without an objective.
Yeah, because
Like-
no one gives that to you. Good players
Yeah.
don't give that to you, right?
Interesting.
But fights just happen randomly.
So I think that's in a long-winded way why I think a lot of people struggle with that concept, and it's a big challenge, a big mental hurdle for people to like get over.
Yeah, awesome. Because just finishing off that point, I saw a lot of players who were pretty good in the early lane. I think because they know I'm watching, they're not taking as many risks in their early lane, so their early lanes were quite consistent, which was nice. And then they just got to mid game and translating of leads through neutrals, I think. So if I have advice to AD carry players, if you are ahead and you're laning mid in the mid game in like 20 minutes ish, you're winning the game, just rock up at the objectives, get everyone excited, as Nathan would say, get your team excited about the
Get 'em
neutral objective.
excited.
Ping it a lot. Use aggressive pings. Don't use those little blue pings. I want you to assist ping your teammate's head and then attack ping the dragon bit. Get them going. Cool. So last point here, as well as the neutral objective point, is another mid-game point. I think we also went on mid-game a lot. Mid-game was like the theme of the bootcamp for me. Very little laning for stuff. A lot of mid-game. Playing around your Fed member. Understanding which of your solo laners is strong, or whether your jungle is strong as an AD, and just orienting the game around them. What this looks like is don't take fights when that person is not there.
Or without R.
I was going to say that as well. Yes. Do not take fights when that person doesn't have ulti. Try and avoid, make the game as easy as possible as you can for that person, and they will carry you in that game. And just doing your job. Don't ruin the game for them, you know?
But doesn't AD carry struggle with that? Because you are meant to be the main character most games.
No, you're not. Not at all. You're meant to do your job as the AD carry. Your job as the AD carry fundamentally is... this is how I simplify mid-game most of the time, is to clear mid-wave aggressively if you're allowed to, and then you have this big tier list of options, right? You can hit the tower, you can roam to sides, you can lean, you can ward, you can base.
That's
true.
true.
You just got to pick the right. It's like bingo. You just pick the right one.
The idea of not pushing that mid wave and then walking into the jungle whilst your mid laner is catching the wave at your tier 2.
Yeah.
That's game changing because they just get caught and the mid laner's like, oh, I should have grouped with my team. My AD carry's an idiot. Yeah, you are right. Doing your job.
I just saw things like people are fighting Rift Heralds when they have like a level 14 Kiana bot lane and they're just fighting Rift. Yeah. It's like, what are you doing? That Kiana's going to win you the game. Just don't do that, you know?
Oh,
so
no.
I think just the step one is just notice who is strong and who is weak in your lull states, and then come up with a basic plan to orient yourself around them.
Love it. Any other points before we move on to Skool?
Bootcamp number 4 information. So we are... The last 3 boot camps, we sort of did a test beta phase.
Yep.
We just released it, announced it for our WTL Academy members. This next boot camp, we are going to be going live with the rest of the BBC community, the wider League of Legends community. We're going to be selling tickets to absolutely anyone can go buy them.
Tell your nan.
Yes, you can tell Charlie's nan specifically. So there will be a link in the description below and probably pinned on the YouTube video about where you can sign up to the wait list if you're interested in that. I will say though, WTL members will announce the tickets before the public because we obviously prioritize our WTL members over our actual Academy members over. But there will definitely still be tickets left over for the general public still. Maybe we will, if we have a lot of demand on the wait list, we will actually maybe even add extra tickets as well. To that, so
these
cater
are the
for
dates,
the
right,
supply.
Nathan?
Yes,
These are
and
the
the
dates
dates.
here. So these ones?
The weekend of September 27th, 28th is
Nice.
going to be WTL Bootcamp number 4.
Is that in Australia or is that the same time for everyone?
Yeah, Saturday, Sunday. Yeah. And
Beautiful.
Australia will be...
And is it running over
starts
2
Saturday
days
night.
or 3 days this time?
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
Could be 2
But
or
that
3
weekend.
days.
That weekend.
Yes.
So don't book a camping holiday with your kids that weekend. Don't say you're going out with your girlfriend that weekend. Nothing's happening that weekend. That's when the boot camp is. Okay.
That's right, Bootcamp. Blood, sweat, and tears, as I
Blood,
say.
sweat, and tears. Get ready
Brutality.
to wipe your keyboard clean after that one.
Oh, I want people sweating.
Oh,
with high
I certainly
intensity.
was. Yeah.
High intensity boot camp. That's what I want to call it.
Anywho,
back to reality, Curtis.
Anywho, Skool post of the week. This one was from Josiah, titled, "Why is this hard for me?" Hello. Since I know this community appreciates psychology and perhaps leaning more towards sports psychology, I wanted to pose this question. For most of my life, I was a high-level collegiate wrestler in my state in the US. Being a top wrestler in my state, I got to wrestle some nationally ranked wrestlers and was nationally recognized. Now, wrestling being a grueling and hard sport, you come to the realization fast that you won't always win every match. In my journey in this sport, I had a very healthy mindset of losers are ways we can learn. And I was always very good at learning from my mistakes and coming back way stronger than before. But why is this harder in League? Writing it down now, I'm able to almost answer my own question. My knowledge of the sport greatly surpasses my knowledge of League. For example, if I was to put my wrestling skill into perspective, in League ranks, I was a Master Plus, whereas in League, I'm Silver. So I'm able to identify small mistakes in wrestling way easier than League. But it's my attitude that throws me off. In wrestling, when I would lose, I would be bummed out, but I would be able to identify and move on. You would have to have this attitude due to a majority of competitions are tournament style. Whereas in League, a loss is sometimes confusing and I'm bothered by it for maybe an hour afterwards. Is this purely a lack of experience, or is there some kind of underlining thing here that has gripped me in this League journey? Any analysis appreciated. And so just my 2 cents here, just straight away. I think there's this, Nathan, you talk a lot about League being in the Stone Ages, and there's this massive gap between how people perceive improving at traditional sport or a hobby versus League. And I just wrote a few notes here, and basically this is my response. I said, here are a few things for you to chew on. So number 1, League is a game with an extremely inefficient feedback cycle. You often have many things going wrong in a game, and it's hard to isolate skills and drill them, right? In traditional sports, you can typically, all right, we're struggling with this, we can just drill it, right? Therefore, instead of drilling and isolating, in League, we play mass games, we get mass reps to build that muscle memory and understanding over time. And to make matters worse, we don't have a dojo, we got to do this inside of ranked, right? Which, creates us some complications.
Yeah, it's like the performance is the training. Yeah.
Because you're using ranked as a training space, you'll naturally fluctuate a lot of LP as you learn new concepts or test new things. And if you're not careful and emphasize LP instead of learning, you will lose your marbles. Now, there's a few other things I said, but the last one here, and this is, I think, the big one. In wrestling, you likely got coached for the majority of your journey. In League, are you getting coached? ? If so, how long have you got coached for? And I don't think this guy is in an academy, but how interesting is this? He's struggling. And he hasn't got coaching. He's playing one of the hardest games in the world, and he's confused about why he's struggling. And every other traditional sport, everyone gets coaching. You don't just randomly pick up tennis and don't get coaching. You don't do wrestling and just figure it out yourself. You're coached your whole career.
You're in classes. There's always a lead guy doing
everything. As you always say, Nathan, no one respects the difficulty of the game. League of Legends is bloody hard. And you're treating it like it's meant to be easy. But he had a moment of realization as he was writing the post. He said, wait a second, this game's just hard, right?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point.
But it's so crazy, right? But there's this cognitive dissonance here. There's this gap between it's like, well, I'm really struggling in this game, and but I'm struggling. Wonder why? But when I'm not getting coaching, so well, you know what I mean? It's so interesting.
I don't know. I do, just to play devil's advocate, Curtis. It looks kind of easy. And you watch people do it. Me and you and Nathan, we rock up on the PC, we sit in our computer chair, we pull up a gameplay of a video game, and we can just quickly tell you, this is why you lost the game. Looks easy.
Yep.
But a Silver player, and this is a tough conversation to have. Silver player can't even begin to do that. You can glean some things here and there by following our advice and having a process and learning how to review. But that's another thing. Reviewing is a skill. Yeah. You have to get repetitions of review. We've reviewed thousands of games.
Because reviewing in a way is like coaching yourself.
It is. It's learning how to learn.
So learning, but when you don't know a lot about the game, it's really hard to review yourself because you're like, where do I direct my attention? How do I even know what the right play is? If you don't have access to any higher any friends that can guide you, it is really hard. It's objectively really hard.
And what makes it harder as well compared to wrestling, you talk about it's an inefficient feedback cycle, confusing feedback cycle. Wrestling, 1v1 sports, much easier to recognize what's going wrong. That's a fact.
Yep.
Team play, there's a lot more variables. There's 4 other people that, are going to be influencing the game and influencing the outcome of the game, right? So
the game doesn't change, right? Wrestling's wrestling, right? League's literally getting updated and changed and patched every few weeks.
Updates, not a 1v1 game. There's no coaching or there's no structure to go in the Stone Ages. You have to figure it all out yourself. People in general don't review their games anyway, right? Reviewing's a massive chore. So those 4 things, that's why it's just brutal. There's so much confusion. As a player from going from iron, bronze, silver, gold, you just go work it out yourself. Go watch some YouTube tutorials or videos And there you go. And even if you do that, there's so many mental barriers and stage 4 issues there that are going to be holding you back.
Even if you get over the stage 4 issues and you approach the review as a silver player with the best attitude in the world, you're still not going to know what you did wrong.
Yeah.
You're still not going to know.
Doesn't matter how good your mental is.
No, it doesn't. You just don't have the knowledge.
Don't have the knowledge.
Just to chip away at it. Over
Exactly.
time.
You got to
And
improve at
yeah,
improving.
I just wanted to like bring this up just from a more like high level, like just like this question. This is coming from a real athlete. This is from someone who is nationally recognized, understands what it's like to improve at a skill
And to feel like what's the being really good at something. That's the key thing.
And
like,
still, if this is an elite athlete and they're still like struggling mentally and like kind of wrestling with the hurdles of, wow, why is league so hard? And that's someone who has gotten very good at something and developed that skill.
Yeah.
You know?
I have an answer to this as well, because I recently sent an email to the people in our school, some people in our school community, not everyone, kind of just asking people like, what holds you back from getting coaching? So a lot of people are in our communities, they watch the podcast, but they don't get coaching. I just wanted to kind of find out why. And a lot of people say it's because they're not ready for coaching. People have this mentality that coaching is for high elo people. What's the point in getting coaching as a silver player, right? That's what people think. They think that coaching is for like, oh, if I want to get from like master to challenger, yeah, I might need some help. Or if I want to get from diamond to master, maybe I need some help then. But because a lot of other coaches don't really talk to the lower elo players or relate to that community.
So backwards.
So it is backwards. It's like you start playing sports when you're a kid, you know, not when you're almost pro. But in League of Legends, it's exact opposite. Not many lower ranked players get coaching, but they definitely should.
Another thing to mention as well is sometimes these type of athletes, like I assume that he wouldn't have played as much video games as other people. This is the trick as well. But remember, ranked is a percentile of the player base, right? Like silver players now was different to silver 10 years ago, right? People sometimes get tricked. Like a lot of people have been training for League or playing League at a high level, even though not playing League, for a long time. I was only able to get to, Challenger Rank 2 because I was a PC gamer my whole life. I mean, when I say that so quickly, because I was a PC gamer my whole life and I was a top, I was, in the top percentile of the player base in World of Warcraft 3v3 Arena. So that was me training to be a Challenger League player.
Yeah.
But that's different I guess you could say in traditional sports, like your physical, like me doing swimming and stuff can help me be a wrestler because I'm just active and fit, whatever. But, you're versing players that might have zero process or whatever, but they've actually been training to be a Diamond League player their whole life because they're learning how to play competitive games just on the PC. So that's where a lot of people get tricked as well. Like that's why we say gaming background is so important for understanding your journey, because it's not a normal hobby where you just rock up and then you're everyone's starting at the same level. No, like when I came in from 3v3 Arena playing, League, it's
not an even playing
field. It's
field.
not an even playing field. I can pick up League and I will learn so much faster because I understand what playing video games at a high level feels like.
But the thing is, the equivalent of that in traditional sport would be like your physical capabilities, right? It's like if you got into wrestling and then you came wrestled against someone that's got like 30 kilos on you, then obviously you would know that this person he's going to beat you
clear
because
advantage,
but in gaming you don't see it. There's no physical appearance. There's no difference. Like you don't know if that guy is has like 10 years of WoW Arena on you or not.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, it's interesting.
So people just get tricked by that. People think it's just a fresh hobby. It's like, no, dude, you're playing against and this is what a lot of the high elo players as well take for granted. They think, oh, League's so easy. It's like, dude, you've been playing League.
You've been thousands of hours of other games.
Thousands of hours of other games.
Sitting in that computer chair.
All three of us had the exact same thing. We all played thousands of hours at a high level in other games before we even touched League of Legends.
Yes.
Yep.
Nathan's mailbag.
Mailbag time. Away we go. Song. Alrighty then, our first question here comes from Theo. The title of this email is Playstyle Tied to Champions. What's the limit? Hiya, BBCs. Hiya, Curtis, Charlie, and Nathan. For the last year or two, I've been playing with some friends in Flex Queue alongside the solo/duo queue climb to enjoy the game as a team game as well. This and listening to your podcast finally pushed me to stop taking the game as a carefree cruise, and I climbed from gold to emerald. One of my friends told me something yesterday, which I agree with, but I'm not sure how much of an issue it is / could be. Depending on how the comp is, I'll adapt my pick. That's a given. However, he also believes that the way I view the game is too closely linked to the champ I'll play. So even if I'd say I'm more risk adverse and like to play safe, scaling and try to push my enemies to make mistakes, if for some reason I play a champ like Akali, I'll get absorbed in the mess. Whereas if I play something like Aurelion Sol and I'm having a solid early game, I might not push that lead by participating in messy / early mid-game skirmishes, and I'll prefer aiming for obvious spikes. Upgraded ults, for example. Personally, I believe having a view of the game depending on the champion you play is obvious. But are there any limits to this? Is it more like a spectrum of, oh yeah, I could be aggro on Aurelion Sol or more passive on Akali for this game? Thanks a ton. Have a lovely day, lads. So this is quite similar to what we were talking about with the Bootcamp, where you notice that players were very rigid. Like they load into a game and they're playing a scaling champion, so they purely play to scale. I think is that what the question I'm sort of reading here is. And that when they play a champ like Carly, then they're just more attuned to making the game messy.
I just think there's levels to this. I think it just depends on where you're at in your journey and your level of champ mastery. That's what it comes down to. I think when you're starting off learning a champion, you're going to be floundering around like a fish out of water, trying everything and anything. You're going to be fighting early as Ace, fighting late, fighting middle, doing everything. And then as you play more of the champion, you're going to become more aligned with the reference points. And then when you become God tier, you can transcend the reference points and know when to break the rules. It's the El Clasico. You must know the rules and then know how to break and how and when to break them. You know, I think it's just that simple.
Yeah. So that the title of this email is Playstyle Tides of Champs. What's the limit? There really is no limit.
There's just a breaking, at some point in your champion mastery journey, you will break through the ceiling and then you'll be able to play the game.
Yeah, there's no such thing as playstyle. I hate the word playstyle, by the way. I really
I'm just using the word champ mastery. What is a champion bad and good at? Like, you're going to be more rigidly tied to the reference points of a champion the worse you are at it. And then the better you are at it, the more you can move away. But you still want to be tied to the reference points always, but you can just stretch them a little bit. You're never going to break them, but you can bend them, I guess.
You know when to break the rules sometimes.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah, I think you nailed it, Charles. I don't really think there's much else to say. I think you don't really want to view League as a rule-based game. It's more like we think of reference points as just guidelines, just rough guidelines that will help you create a bit of consistency, but there's always room for adjustment and there's a lot of leeway. Yeah. And the better you get, the more you're able to gather information, understand the context of the scenario, you're going to be able to just be a little bit more adaptable. So sometimes you'll see, okay, let's use a classic example, right? You see some of the best ASOL players in the world, they will go very aggressive, sometimes level 2. They will just start Wing on people's face and start, running,
So would you call that a play style?
No, they're just playing to the limits of what the champion can do.
It's often tied to matchups, I find, as well. Because depending on what champs you're versing, it changes what you can do.
Yep.
Right, yeah.
So yeah, the reality is that, like Charlie said, it depends on your rank. So, we don't know your rank here. So let's say the reality, if this was a silver player writing this email, we would say, yes, it's okay to sometimes miss opportunities and be a little bit rigid in your reference points because that's the stage you're at in your journey. If this was a high emerald player, we may say, okay, well, playing super rigid around your reference points is probably not enough to kind of push. You need to be maybe limit us a little bit more, be a little bit more adaptable. So it does massively depend on that.
Yeah, so that's why I don't like the word playstyle, because League is such a game of adaptation and depends what champs load into the game, whatever. You can't, you can't be like saying, oh, I'm a Kali, so I'm going to be automatically playing a messy game. Some games I'm going to be thriving in chaos. Some games I need to play really slow because no one's giving me any options, right? Everyone's just sitting back and I just need to play for the mid game.
Yeah, the specific game you're in will present specific problems, which will require specific solutions. And sometimes those will fit in nice and neatly with what your champion likes to do. And sometimes it won't. Sometimes I'll be playing Jinx and I'll be put with a Bard support who runs top. And I'm like, oh, well, my reference points are out the window now. Now I'm going to have to enter pure creativity zone and try and win,
So you guys never use the word playstyle in your coaching, right?
You keep saying playstyle.
I just want to go over this because this is people. If you go on Reddit and stuff, you type in playstyle, there'll be millions of results, right?
Yeah. So I talk about playstyle when it comes to a player's urges in playstyle is tied to enjoyment. That's where I interpret this. It's like,
so what do they enjoy?
yeah, what do you enjoy? What sort of champions do you like? How do you like conducting yourself on the Risk? At the end of the day, on the Rift, at the end of the day, like your play style is just how you express yourself.
There is such thing as play style, but it's not dependent on the champion. It's dependent on you as a person.
Yeah, it's how you
I use the term player tendencies. That's what I say. So this player has a tendency to roam a lot and sack waves. That's the way they interpret playing the game.
Okay, well, sorry. When I say play style, it's like having the mindset of this is my play style, I'm going to do it every game. That doesn't lead to climb in League of Legends. That's why I have a problem with the...
Yeah, I don't know if I agree with that.
Oh, really? Because there's
a Draven player. I was talking about Dan this morning. Draven player on EU. I think his name is Exofang. And he plays Draven in a weirdly unique way. Glass cannon build, full limit test. He's like top 10 at the moment.
Yeah.
That's a playstyle.
Yep, okay. There are play styles, I would say, but it's more that I don't believe they breed the best players.
Okay.
I think play styles tend to lead to rigidity, and you kind of get capped, in my opinion, in terms of like what you can achieve. Because fundamentally, in order to play the best league, you have to be able to adapt and change. That Draven player, right?
Yep.
For example, he would probably win more games if he was maybe a little bit more versatile, potentially. An argument could be made for that.
I think this is actually, we could have a deeper conversation about this because I think like the complexity of the champion, the more complex the champion is, the more it actually rewards you limiting what you do in a way. Like a Draven who kind of adapts what they do every game compared to a Draven who specializes in one thing.
Bless you.
Jesus. Yeah, a Draven who specializes in one thing actually limits what you need to know. So it actually does simplify the execution a little bit as well. But they are also one-dimensional. So you'll kind of ebb and flow in your performance to do with things like what's strong in the meta. If your play style aligns with the meta, you'll do really well. But there might be periods, maybe even years, where you just rot if you're only good at one thing. So
I think that's why, Nathan, you're probably uncomfortable with the whole idea of play style, because you know that it's only going to take you so far.
I think I'm now thinking this might be another Nathan Mott classic jungle perspective. I think junglers are because you know how there's like jungle, especially the way I teach the game, is very much a wrong and a right decision. Like you can't just... you could say like the most obvious ones, like a Nunu, like ganking the right? But that's like and it doesn't really work that well, Like, and like let's say I'm like a person who invades every time. Like, sometimes there's no chance to invade, so I'm not invading.
You just want people to invade when it's good, not to invade arbitrarily.
No, I see where you're coming from. You're spot on. I think that is the jungle, but I also think at the same time, Nathan, you got to keep it in mind because playstyle is such a broad term. Yeah. Okay, so let's use an example here, right? Something more practical. Let's say there is two players. One, their playstyle is super high percentage and there is no skill checks. Another person's playstyle is that they're willing to take every 50-50, every skill check. And that's just their playstyle. That's just the way they like to play League, right? So you know what I mean? Like
they can't be viewed equally.
They can't really. It's hard to say. I mean, yeah, I guess maybe we could sit there and analyze what is objectively more effective, but that one playstyle will generate a particular set of skills and another playstyle will generate a particular set of skills. They will have a different set of skills. And this ties back to what Charlie said. I think it depends on certain games. One skill set will be probably thriveable. Certain metas will reward a certain skill set. Certain champions will reward a certain skill set. It's so complex. So I think, if we're talking about a Nunu player that invades every time, then yeah, that's a very generic, terrible, like bad playstyle, right? But I think there's levels and sophistication of playstyle.
I see what you're talking about, yeah.
So I think also like... Sorry, you can...
No, go on.
I was going to say it's also tied to your interpretation of the champion.
Yeah.
Right? Like, such as a champion like J4, right? Would you say what Agurin did when he started playing Jarvan in that way? When he started doing that, that might have been referred to as a playstyle.
Everyone's got a playstyle, yeah. I call that just great League of Legends.
That's just good League, but like, because everyone else 3-camps as Jarvan. Now, is that a playstyle to 3-camp on Jarvan? Like, what if you have the mentality of 3-camping?
I mean, sometimes it's a good play.
So your view is that there would be an objectively, you could get into the details and be like, this is a great game objectively for 3-camp.
Yeah, this is why a 3-camp.
This is why. So you need to have this toolkit, the skill set to do both, and pick which tool to use at the right moment. That's how you teach jungle.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
That sounds correct to me.
Yeah, that's the way we all teach, I think, our roles. I don't think any of us teach a play style.
No, of course not. No.
We all just teach the role.
What I'm saying. I was going to say.
Yeah. But it is
my initial question.
The reason the question your question was so is hard to answer is because sometimes I think a playstyle can be in a weird way faster in the short term to climb.
Because you like that player tendency. Like you think of like a Yasuo player as like min-maxing,
Yeah.
like fighting and stuff. Yeah,
and they know
right, you're
exactly
fine.
what they're going to do, and they
Yeah.
can dial in on it, and they have this very super unique skill graph. You know what I mean?
Hey,
Like
you just have to learn less. You only have to learn, like, there's many paths to the Nexus. I only have to learn one of them.
yeah, yep. And you just find a way to make it work.
Yeah,
And again, that's why I
brute
think
force
it's
it.
sustain- that's why it's unsustainable in my
Yes.
opinion. Yeah, that's the problem.
Very muddy question, though,
Yeah.
Playstyle. Thanks for brute forcing that conversation, Nathan. You just
Yeah.
kept repeating it until we
I
exploded.
did. That's right. I get on the hammer and shove it down your
Yes,
throat. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about this. And then finally you guys cracked.
Yeah, we did crack. Yeah.
All right, moving on here. We've got Ty. Oh, no. Oh, we're good, we're good. This is just me
Nathan
trying to...
exclusively cannot use the computer, by the
Just
way.
a Mac. We're talking, and a lot of the audience will be able to relate to me, okay? We're Windows people.
I even warned him before reading this. I said, do you know how to use that? And he said, yes, I do. Nope.
Okay. Checking the map and League of Legends. Greeting Nathan, Charlie, and Curtis. This past year, I've been spending a lot of my spare time on trying to improve at League of Legends. I managed to climb as a Briar jungle one trick from Iron all the way up to Plat 4 from September to April. But after some complications with my PC and Vanguard, on top of me spamming an unhealthy amount of games after being tilted from a Briar bug, I managed to drag myself back down to mid-gold. A lot of externals already just thrown out there by the
Vanguard,
way.
the computer broke. There was a bug.
Okay, it's already a little bit concerning there.
That TP'd his account from platinum to gold.
I set a goal for the summer to improve my mental and hopefully get a higher plat by September 1st. In doing so, I graduated from a casual to an avid listener of the BBC and podcast and started to listen to as many older episodes of the podcast as I could, ingraining core concepts into my mind as well as making me focus on limiting my mistakes and causing me to review all of my games in a spreadsheet. From my reviews, I noticed a similar mistake I kept making. I would completely disregard the minimap if I wasn't hitting a jungle monster. So, disregard the minimap if I wasn't hitting a jungle monster, which is typically the time that you do want to be looking at the map. Okay, during my clear and on objectives, I would use my F keys and check wave states to see who did and didn't have priority, who I could gank, which some CDs everyone had up. But the moment I left the objective to interact with actual humans, it's like the minimap didn't exist and my brain wouldn't realize that I stopped keeping track of anything after that point until someone roamed onto my screen or I started hitting jungle camps again. And so I came up with a solution stemming from Pavlov's experiments. FYI, that's the experiment where the dogs and cats were given food as a bell was rung, causing them to associate the sound of the bell with food. Every time after I regained my conscious from hitting camps after interacting, I gave myself 2 outcomes based on the situation. Situation 1, did I check the minimap during that time? Situation 2, I did not check the minimap during that time. So very simple there. Situation 1, I did check the map. 2, didn't check the map. Outcome 1, eat a piece of orange/melon. Number 2, eat the peel of an orange/melon. Lemon. My thought process was associating the negative situation with a negative sensation, being the bitterness of a pill, in order to train my brain to check the map. Wait, so this is what he did?
Yeah, so he's doing some positive and
Pavlov's
negative.
dogging himself, dude.
Is it what it's called? Is it negative reinforcement or is it called? There's another term for it. I remember psychology back in high school. So there's positive reinforcement, and then there's another term. It's not
I've only
negative.
heard negative reinforcement.
Okay.
This is brutal, man. Is this during the game? There's no way he's eating it during the game. It's
So
like
he's
literally
got a
just like
pile.
instantly. Just
He's
like,
got a pile of peel and then a pile of like actual like the inside bit.
this is
flesh.
crazy. I ended up using this method to focus on each part of my gameplay one at a time to improve at an unnaturally high rate for myself. I'm now in mid-plat aiming to reach my goal in record time. From this experience, I've come to the conclusion that people should try and come up with their own ways to live the BBC concepts in their own way. I think this is something that might help a lot of other listeners who have similar issues to me. If not, I hope it was at least entertaining to hear about my unconventional, unethical... He said an unethical method of learning. Thank you for your time, Ty.
Dude, this is awesome.
That's
Dude, you're a
crazy.
freak, Ty. I respect it. This is incredible.
That was the funniest thing. One of the funniest emails I think we've ever gotten.
Yeah, so when he messes up, he has to eat the peel of a fruit.
It's like
Okay, wait. Actually, I have seen something like this before. Back in the day, I think it might have even been in the BBC Book Club back in the day. Someone put a rubber band around their wrist, and whenever they like died, they would like punish themselves.
Wow.
It was something like that. It was something like, or when they
Interesting.
and I remember thinking that was just so brutal.
so
like,
that's extreme. Like, all right, guys, I'm a coach. Like, let's sort of down here,
that is
guys.
mental.
It's like whiplash a little bit, you know?
Yeah, that's whiplash for you.
You got to think of a quote from that movie now for this episode. Put you on, put you on a
look,
profile.
I respect the hustle here. I just think I don't think we can condone this methodology.
No, look, I mean,
on the podcast.
The reason this has worked isn't because of the specifics. It's because you're trying to improve.
Mm-hmm.
So by punishing yourself or rewarding yourself, you're still like acknowledging the correct or incorrect action. So you're going through the review steps. You're just adding this extra layer of like pizzazz on top of it. You don't need that extra layer. You could just review the games and have the positive and negatives associations with like how the game actually
Yeah, but
went.
maybe they're not as extreme.
Yeah.
You're not going to get the loans unless you do.
We
the
don't know,
activity.
right? He hasn't done this could theoretically have speeded up his journey, right? Potentially, right? We don't know. We don't have the data to suggest otherwise.
Oh, no, I'm not disproving the validity of his research. What I'm saying is that the average player doesn't need to do this to get results. But keep researching if you like.
Yeah, no, and I think as well it just shows his dedication. I just think
Yes.
it's probably a more sustainable and healthy, less torturous way to go about that. But yeah, I mean, keep us updated. Maybe try something else. Try some chilies or something.
I'm just imagining like a scientific article called like the effects of orange/melon peel on League of Legends mechanical performance. Or something.
Scientific journal.
Yeah, in like Nature or something, you know.
Yeah. I didn't even know what to say. I'm gobsmacked, honestly. So
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, freak.
I love some crazy.
love some dedication.
Yeah, the dedication.
You're a BBC now.
He's a
That's
true
what you say.
BBC.
Welcome.
Welcome to the club. Moving on here,
Welcome to the
we've got
Investor
Felipe. The title of this email is Surrender Culture Antidote, LP Penalties. I've been pondering the problem of teammates wanting to surrender and how to combat FF culture. I respect ASAP's method of teaching through example, but what if we cut even more fat from the problem? Since most people who do want to FF are doing it to go next and win the next game, how about implementing penalties if they do win? Say Jim Bob, we love Jim Bob on this podcast, is tilted at the enemy talon going 2-0 and spans FF, but his teammates stall until late and win the game. Jim Bob will probably think to himself, what a crappy mid laner, and go on with his life. I propose if Jim Bob starts an FF and proceeds to win, he only earns half of the LP the victory would have given. Now, not only does Jim Bob feel a little bit ashamed he tried to FF, he won't even receive the same amount of LP as his teammates did for sticking through it. I would love to not only hear your thoughts on this idea, but also to brainstorm what other LP penalties could be implemented to better help the community.
I actually don't mind this idea if it was like every FF vote that fails, you lose like 5 LP, like, you know, a small portion.
Do you guys view FFing as that big of a deal?
Not in our games, but I think we have maybe a slightly biased outlook because we're playing in high elo. But I have seen, I can't really comment how frequently, but in the last week, maybe 1 or 2 things in the Discord saying how they wanted to keep on going, and the team just FF'd. So it is a thing that happens.
I think it's quite rare still, though.
I think it's kind of one of those troll things that people think there's a lot of trolls. There's not a lot of
I
trolls.
mean, we did the bootcamp, guys. Did you see trolls and like FFs and crazy things? I think I saw maybe
I think I saw one.
1 or 2. And again, we're talking about across 18 hours of coaching.
I had one game that was bombed. Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
I think I had like 2, I think. Which is like more of like I had 0 trolls, but I had like people that like, you know, clearly sort of gave up in the game, right? Maybe 2.
I had a troll. I had a straight up troll.
You had a straight
Did
up
you have a
troll.
straight up troll?
One.
Yeah, I had one. I had a straight up one.
So that's 1 of how many games?
How many games did we coach?
So we did...
We did like 7 blocks each, right? At least.
No, we did
8.
9. It was 2 students per block.
6 blocks each.
Oh yeah, more.
6 blocks.
So 6 times 3, 18 games.
But there's 2 students in each block.
Oh, wow.
So 36.
36.
36. So 1
1
in
in
36.
36.
1 in 36. Done. Clip it and ship it.
That's crazy.
No,
dude.
but I mean, I don't want to discredit people's experiences. Obviously, if you have a game where you are scaling, especially when you're playing a scaling champion and your team FFs. It is annoying. I don't have a problem with this penalty thing.
Yeah, I think it's an I like the way he's thinking though, because it's a very kind of nifty.
It's accountability is what it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like if you don't just. I hate the idea of just like pissing out an FF vote. So I think this might
people
stop
just
that.
like just go yes, yeah.
Because it's a negative experience. You say, "Oh,
Oh,
the
yeah.
FF vote failed." Like, what the fuck, guys? Come on, we can easily win this game. It's
Yeah.
such a low accountability act.
And
isn't
they've
it?
even made it less accountability. Riot will never do this because they actually used to make it so you could see who made the vote. Now you can't even see who makes the FF
Yeah.
vote. So they're never going to go in this direction.
I mean, I generally don't think this works. I think the problem with this is that the people that are FF in, they're already in a fragile mental state. If the game starts looking like it's going to win, they actually have lost the incentive to win.
That's a great
Interesting.
point.
You see what I'm saying? So they don't actually want to win. So you're actually saying...
Yeah,
If
but
they start
inverse
winning
effect.
after they,
Yeah.
then they're gonna even want to
Because
yeah.
especially in spite of the person, like let's say someone who is that scaling person, a lot of those people who FF, they want to lose in spite of that
Spite,
person
yeah.
because
Yes,
it's like
it's a protest. It's a
I do
protest.
not- it's a protest.
Yes.
So this is incentivize them harder to protest rather than they were able to like let that go a little bit. It's like, oh, I'm winning the game. I'll win the game and just move on. Like I hate this guy. I hate this way this guy plays the game, but I'll move on because I'll get the LP. But this one here is flat out like I don't really get an upside. Screw you. So I actually don't think
So
that
they're already in the self-sabotaging mindset.
Yeah.
They'll just go deeper.
They'll go deeper
Yeah,
because
because a lot of the time, by the way, if someone's even thinking about FFing the game, whether or not they put out that FF vote isn't really going to change their behavior in that game, is it? Like fundamentally, they've already kind of somewhat given up anyway.
Yeah, I know, but this is saying that they're not even going to do that.
Yeah,
But you
they
said
won't
if,
even-
if they're thinking about that, then
My point is that like if
they're
they,
going to do it anyway.
maybe I don't know,
Yeah.
but what I do like about it is I feel like it's an elegant kind of somewhat nifty approach rather than like, oh yeah, we either have FF or we don't. Like it's a more subtle. Like I do think this is the direction of some of the changes that need to happen, where it's like it's not just black and white. You're either bad or you're good, or we punish you or we don't. It's like it's on a scale and it's more elegant. It makes more sense. I do like the way Yukis has kind of gone about this. I think it's quite thoughtful.
Interesting.
Very interesting. All right, well, that wraps up our bootcamp post-mortem.
Yep.
For bootcamp number 3. Again, if you're interested in our next bootcamp on the weekend of September 27th, link in the description below. We'll have a pinned comment to sign up to the waitlist for that, to know when tickets go on sale for that. We'll see you guys on our next episode.